Richard Wesh Jr., also known as White Boy Rick, was a former drug trafficker and FBI informant. The youngest known informant in the history of the FBI, Wesh became a confidential informant at the age of 14 years old. When FBI agents came to his door for his father Richard Wesh Sr. in 1984. And according to White Boy Rick, his father made a living running scams and selling guns out of his own home. But apparently the FBI wasn't there to send him to prison. They wanted information. They came with an envelope full of pictures and hoped that Richard Wesh Sr. would recognize the faces. And according to reports, Richard Wesh Sr. didn't have any answers. But his 14-year-old son, Richard Wesh Jr., knew every name. And according to reports, White Boy Rick was not a drug dealer or a gangster at 14 years old. He was just aware of what went on around him in his community. He was a streetwise kid, and the FBI was willing to pay to find out just how much he was aware of. His father saw this as an opportunity to make money and keep food on their table. So he convinced his son to cooperate with the FBI. And according to reports, the FBI began to train the young Wesh Jr. on how to be a gangster. They taught him how to peddle drugs on the street. They even gave him money specifically to buy cocaine so that the FBI could use it as evidence. And according to investigators, Richard Wesh Jr. was good at what he did. He went above and beyond what the FBI asked him to do. He somehow managed to make friends with some of the most dangerous criminals in the underworld so that he could get better information. His main target was a crew called the Curry Gang, the biggest group of drug slingers in Detroit at the time. And despite putting a 14-year-old boy's life at risk, according to the FBI, White Boy Rick was too useful to let go. At that time, White Boy Rick became the single most productive informant the FBI had in Detroit. And according to reports, the FBI recorded White Boy Rick's tips under his father's name in order to cover their tracks on paper. But unfortunately for investigators, White Boy Rick was a little bit too good at getting information. And pretty soon he would go on and uncover a conspiracy that ran through the whole city of Detroit. Now according to reports, White Boy Rick was only 15 when he told the FBI that a major drug dealer had spoken of paying a bribe to then Chief of Homicide, Inspector Gilbert Hill, to deliberately diverted the investigation of a 13-year-old boy's murder away from the gang leader, Johnny Curry. According to White Boy Rick, Johnny Curry was dating the Detroit mayor, Coleman Young's niece Kathy Valsand, at the time of the murder. White Boy Rick alleged that the mayor and Inspector Hill deliberately diverted the murder investigation because Mayor Young's connection with Curry was bad for business. Especially with White Boy Rick alleging that Curry slipped Inspector Hill a $10,000 cash bribe. This information would have uncovered one of the biggest corruption cases in police history, with more than a dozen police officers implicated. However, Inspector Hill and Mayor Young would walk away scot-free. According to one anonymous FBI agent, the agency was ordered to let the mayor go. The order came down the pipe that the nation didn't want to deal with another news story about a corrupt mayor, coming off the heels of former Washington, D.C. Mayor Marion Barry getting caught smoking crack in a hotel room. But according to insiders, the FBI wanted no parts of the Coleman Young's investigation because they didn't want to expose the fact that they was using a 15-year-old as a confidential informant, leaving the FBI no choice but to look the other way and leave White Boy Rick to fend for himself without the FBI's protection, which wasn't easy. 16-year-old White Boy Rick didn't even know there was a price on his head. According to former Detroit City hitman Nate Boonecraft, the homicide inspector Gil Hill offered him $125,000 to kill the teenager who knew too much, bid despite having no FBI protection and no money. White Boy Rick somehow managed to survive the hits on his life. He used his street smarts and tactics the FBI taught him while being their informant. And by the age of 17, White Boy Rick became one of the biggest drug kingpins in the city of Detroit. However, Just a few days shy of his 18th birthday, Detroit police broke down his front door and caught him with 18 pounds of cocaine. The baby-faced teenager was arrested and tried as an adult. His father tried to get the FBI to help his son, but they refused to say a word. He was subsequently found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But 30 years later, in 2017, White Boy Rick was paroled by the state of Michigan. He was released to the U.S. Marshals and sent directly to the Florida State Penitentiary, where he had to serve 5 years for his involvement in a car theft ring in 2008 that involved former New York City kingpin Lorenzo "Fat Cat" Nichols. After his release in 2020, Wersch Jr. sued the FBI, saying in the lawsuit that, "Had I not been an informant for the task force, I would never have gotten involved with drug gangs or criminality of any sort, and that the FBI's actions amounted to child abuse." However, in 2023, a federal judge dismissed Richard Wersch Jr.'s $100 million lawsuit against the FBI and Detroit police, concluding that the infamous drug informant and dealer known as White Boy Rick waited too long to sue over his alleged distress and misfortune cooperating with the government. Now, as always, we would like to know what you think about this video down below the comment section. Also, don't forget to like the video, share the video, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Peace.